Hello, fellow baggers, and welcome back to a bit of a chat about what we saw against the Brisbane Lions, and just another interesting effort. Um, wouldn't really call it performance, would you? Yeah, really, it's at the point now where all you can do is laugh, because if you don't laugh, you cry, and it's becoming a bit of a hard watch, as we know. As I turn on my light here, I forgot to put that on before going live. But of course, we are keen to chat about, well, not overly keen, but more so just to hear from all of you kind lads and lassettes or ladettes out there, fellow baggers. Let us know your thoughts about the game itself. A bit of a late stream, but I figured why not do it? We did the last one as a live stream, so just saves me a bit of edit time to so I don't have to dedicate a bit of my downtime to piecing this together. But it's also an opportunity to listen from or hear from you, kind folk out there. Let us know your thoughts about the game, where things are at with the club, and discuss everything else in between. Where do we go from here? What changes do we make? It's probably a bit of a Groundhog Day every single review from here on out. It's kind of a bit of that narrative, but there's not really much else to discuss apart from, as we will get into, a few key notes from the game itself. But we have to start looking longer term, because it's virtually at that point in the season. I think mathematically we could probably make the finals if we win every single one of our remaining matches. But really, do we want to? We saw what happened in the elimination final against Brisbane last year, and we stumbled into finals off the back of some absolutely horrid form. And it seems as though where we are now, it's kind of, very similar to where we were in that elimination final against Brisbane, where the confidence was shot and everything else. So let's do it. Let's get into it. But first and foremost, thank you for joining us. We have 5 people watching us live now, so love that, and thanks for joining us. And of course, if you are keen to jump on for a bit of a yarn, a bit of a chat, I will be whacking the link down in the description very, very shortly. And we have first up Josh, who is one of our long-time watchers, followers, supporters, everything else. So thank you, Josh. And you've asked first up, what's happened to Charlie? I love it when you do it as a live stream. Well, thank you, mate. And that's part of the reason I do it, is for you kind folk out there. It's that point, really, I get the enjoyment out of hearing from other baggers like yourself. But it's an opportunity now, I think, where we're at in the season, that it's a good time to, as a collective, get together and debrief and really, consolidate the supporter base. And this is the best way to do it. And it's just, it's a bit of a therapy session in a sense. But yeah, there's not really much else to discuss apart from a lot of negatives. But we will try and, try and keep things a little bit positive as well, because otherwise we will go insane and everything else. But we will address some questions in the chat as well, Lucas. We will chat about Michael Voss as we have done at length previously. And also, yes, you've mentioned there, and no doubt you're a follower and watcher of our other YouTube channel in Supercoach Edge, which of course, you're referencing the Supercoach performance from Josh Dacos, but all over football performance from Josh Dacos. 198 Supercoach was absolutely insane, and I think one of the biggest scores that we've seen all season. So, he's a great player. He's Josh Dacos, despite the fact that he plays for the Pies, but we will overlook that. But let's start things by going through, actually, before I do that, I'll whack in, as I said, the link in the chat here. So if anyone is keen to jump on for a chat, feel free, jump on. Otherwise, if you just want to, continue chatting in the live chat, feel free to do that as well. But I am conscious that, it's, quarter to midnight, so there's not going to be a lot of people online, and let alone, Carlton baggers out there that want to chat about our fledgling club at the moment. But let us get into things. Let's just go through, I think, first and foremost, a couple of, nice points. We'll start with some positives. So there were some, believe it or not. We started the game pretty well. We came out not firing, but it looked as though we were going to kind of create a bit of a contest, which is good to see. But that was only very, very fleeting, as you know. Outside of that, Flynn Young, I think I was just absolutely elated to see that he wasn't named as a starting sub for his third game consecutively, I was like, you know what? They're going to make him the sub, aren't they? And finally, Voss and co, they saw the light and they gave him a full game and really showed what he can do and did some really nice things. I think he had about 10 disposals, so I didn't have a lot of the footy, but really, to me, I count a player's performance based upon the quality of disposals and what they do with the footy and what they don't do. Oh, sorry, what they do when they don't have the footy in their hands. So there were a real couple of nice moments here, and one of which was the goal assist that he had. And I've spoken about it previously, but the one thing I love about Flynn Young is his low penetrating kicks, absolutely flawless. And that was part of the reason why I think the club picked him up. He's got a lot of strings to his bow with regards to his disposal, and his kicking inside 50 at VFL level has been elite. And he displayed some of that against the Lions. He kicked inside 50, that low penetrating kick, cleared the pack that was kind of on the 40-metre arc there, and it fell a little bit short. Williams, though, bent over, picked up the ball, crumbed it, and snapped a nice goal there. So real standout bit of play there from Flynn Young. So a great goal assist there. Also forced a turnover from Zorko's kick-in. He sprinted to cause a spoil and turnover, and I think it might have been unlocking Neil, it might have been, and ball hit the deck. Unfortunately, Cripper couldn't convert when he gathered his possession, but really, again, just showed vigor, and that's that youthful exuberance. I think he's about 23 years of age, so a bit more of a mature age prospect, but someone that I think has realised that he's been given an opportunity at senior level and AFL level, having been plucked from obscurity virtually in the VFL. And he's relishing the opportunity and chance to prove himself at senior level. And part of the reason why it's kind of annoyed me that he was made the sub in both of his first two games, and it was like, just give this bloke a crack, especially considering that a vast majority of the players wearing navy blue are just lacking motivation, confidence, heart virtually. But to have him come in and show that, it was so refreshing. So refreshing. I don't know about you guys, but let us know your thoughts on Flynn Young. But those couple of moments from him really stood out for me, and I absolutely loved it. So Pitter, must mention as well, Pitnet. So obviously he's massive torp on the quarter break. What was it, 60 meters out, and that was the highlight of the game. It was great. It was absolutely incredible. Also kicked a really nice goal as well. I mean, it was by him, his positioning. Ball was kicked over the top. He was in the perfect spot to mark it. Apologies, my brain is a bit fuzzled at the moment because I have been driving back and forth to see my little man who's recovering in the hospital at the moment. But he's absolute, I guess his ability to be in the right positions at the right time, take that mark, hit the goal, just was a really nice, I think, game overall from Pitt. Did some nice things in the ruck as well. I think he's kind of brought down by the fact that he's an old school ruckman, lumbering, doesn't have the aerobic ability of, say, Tim English or a TDK, and we'll speak about him in a moment. But, I think for what he can provide, he's not our ruckman, I think, longer term. We need a better quality ruckman, especially one that provides a bit more around the ground. But when you see this, pushing forward, we even saw it in the elimination final against Brisbane last year, where he was one of the few players to actually provide an option up forward. And we're kind of trying to use TDK as that, and we have done in the past as well. And, we can speak about TDK in his current form, but even when he was at, full flight, he's a great leap, good mark, everything else. But I think Pitnet can really carve out a spot in the forward line, I think, just as a resting ruckman. I don't know about going forward, even after TDK no doubt leaves the club, that we roll with, more often than not, two ruckmen in a given game, unless really you need to, depending upon matchups with the opposition. But I thought he played a pretty decent game and justified his selection in the team, which I will admit, in the preview, I was kind of scratching my head. I'm like, why are we playing two ruckmen? But I did actually say that TDK was probably the one that, of those two, I would have liked to have seen made way. Not in good form. His heart isn't in it. He's obviously, looking to leave and take that massive contract from St Kilda, which is totally fine. It's a ridiculous amount of money, and I don't hold it against him. But what I do hold against him is the fact that he's not having that performance, that we know and love when he's at full flight, and his heart's not in it. And if that's the case, just be honest and just go to the coaches and say, look, I want to earn my pay, but also by the same respect, I don't feel as though my heart's in it. He will never do that, obviously. But I'd love to see some more honesty in clubland in AFL. I think the NRL do it quite well, where it's kind of commonplace where if a player's leaving to go and play for another club the next season, they're quite honest about it. And I think it's kind of an accepted thing. Whereas in the AFL, it's sacrilegious to do that, and it's kind of at the detriment and everything else of the football club if you're not going to be going out there and putting in 100%. So he had a little bit of a better game, I think, in the respect of putting in a performance that was okay compared to the previous week, but he's still not at the level. And I would, in all honesty, like to see him, if he's not willing to play at 100% capacity, go back to the VFL. Treat him like any other player that's out of form. We did it with Akers, did it with Doc. So, I spoke about in the preview as well that I was hoping that Lemmy might have come into the team. It wasn't to be, frustratingly so, because he's kicked 21 goals in 7 games, his last 7 games. And without Harry there, I'd much prefer to see Lemmy there played up forward as opposed to TDK. So let us know your thoughts if you're the same thing. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion point, I think. Moving on, though, I want to mention as well that Fantasia, he was someone that I've spoken about in the past couple of reviews and preview episodes. But for me, he played a really good game outside of the fact that he went down with that injured hammy. And it's really it's a cruel game, I think, AFL, because in 2024 he was pretty poor. He wasn't being played correctly by Michael Voss. He was being played as sort of that really super high half forward, pushing up to the wing, but not really going back to do much in the forward line. When his bread and butter is playing as a small forward. And I was frustrated to see that Fantasia was being played in that role in 2024. He's doing more of that in 2025, and he's actually, lo and behold, he's playing to great effect in his usual role. Kicked a nice goal and contributed in 3 others that I can recall. Quick hands, quick thinking, what we know and love from Fantasia. We think back to, when he was at his pinnacle at the height of his career, of his game, was at Essendon when he was doing these things, and he's looked really good. Really good, I think. He's had a lot of haters, and I've been one of them, but I'll happily admit, when someone's playing well, I'm happy to eat humble pie and give them a shout out and kudos for turning things around. And, I've been, a bit of a critiquer. I wouldn't say, someone that's been criticizing him overly, but I do critique everyone's game, and he's been someone that I've been critiquing. And I think, he's well deserved his spot on the side of late. Just as I said, unfortunate that injury has yet again struck him down. Now, I know the chat's going off, and Lucas, I think you're going absolutely bananas. And I think, Lucas, you are Joshua. Is that correct? I think you've switched accounts. But I will go back through. Actually, let me go back through because I don't want to sort of rehash on some of the comments if you are making comments about what I'm just touching upon, because I don't want to, rehash the same sort of ground here. But first and foremost, mate, yes, Baby Felix is going as well as can be, mate. So he's making progress and everything else. So I'm just happy to see him every time we go on and visit him and get to hold him and stuff. And he's an absolute trooper. I mean, we speak of humans with heart and overcoming obstacles. Like, I look at him and then I look at the Carlton Football Club and I'm like, geez, they could really do with some heart and strength and determination and everything else from what my little man provides in his early stages of life. So, but thank you for the question there, Lucas. And yes, he's going as well as can be. I will be going through the Willow ratings, mate. They have uploaded the full stats, not just the surface level on the AFL website, but they do have the beneath the surface stats on Willow ratings from the match itself. So we'll be going through that as well. You've said sorry to say, Flynn Young, go back to the VFL, and Matt Carroll. Now, Matt Carroll, I know you're referencing there's a couple of stages where he was caught with the footy and dispossessed, and I think he gave up a goal in at least one of those, if not both. Now, just on those particular moments, I am quite forgiving of a player if they make that mistake once as a youngster. He's still learning. if it's to do it twice and then to sort of, have a bit of a smile on your face, I just thought it would have been a nice moment for Michael Voss to bring him off. Not in a punishment sense, but just to sit him down, have a chat to him and just say, look, mate, these things happen, but you've just got to have your wits about you. And in having said that as well, it's not just on Matt Carroll. It's not just on him. I think it really is, and this is what I've written down as well in terms of bad points, and this was one of them. But, the two separate occasions, being dispossessed, but you've got to remember he's a young, developing defender, and you're not going to have the extreme awareness, laser-like focus of, say, a Nick Dacos coming in, a Sammy Walsh even, highly rated players. He's still learning the craft, and he's more of an attacking defender more than anything. And I think defensively, and that kind of showed in those two moments there where he needs to sort of work on his awareness and the defensive side of his game as a pure, defender, if you wanted to sort of carve out that side of his game as well. But you've also, I think, as a team, got to be vocal and really call out when your teammate is under pressure and about to be run down. And it may have happened there live. I wasn't there, unfortunately, to hear it, but on that side of the ground, it was, to me, it seems as though it's almost on the, leaders in defence to get around. You've got Haynes, you've got Weeders, you've even got Cowan, who's been on the list for 3-4 seasons now. You've got to really get around these young players, and even afterwards, go and have a chat to him, give him a pat on the backside and be like, look, mate, these things happen. But having said that, a bit of positive reinforcement, and then give him some feedback. So I think that was kind of lacking there from both the players and leaders in the defence, but also Michael Voss and the coaching staff, not sitting him down, not chatting to him, and just, again, I think youngsters, we have to not always approach them with a punitive angle, much like, we saw with Michael Voss giving Jackson Binns a bit of a dress down a few weeks ago. But, I think there are players that do respond to that. Other players maybe more so the positive reinforcement. But I think the top level and what I'm referring to here is we need to sort of give these guys real-time feedback, and that would have been a great time to do just that. Francis Evans for Flynn. No, mate, you're taking the piss there. You are taking the piss. Flynn Young has been given 3 opportunities, one of which has been the only full game that he's had. And as I said, he had his hand in. And if you haven't seen it, go back, because I think they've played it in the KO. Might have been KO Mini, not the micro, the mini one, which goes for about 20 minutes or thereabouts. There are a couple of his good moments in that as well. So go and check it out. And again, you've got to have context of the fact that this is his first full game that he's played. He's otherwise played 2 sub games, and you can't be proving yourself at senior level with that limited time on ground. So again, just you've got to kind of peel things back. And I know you want to be critical and everything else, but we can't be dropping every single player. You know what I mean? And I guess, TDK spoke of him. He was getting bronxed. I think the team itself was getting bronxed, and I know that Kane Corns on Twitter called this out, but there was the moment that he was referring to there where it was, I think the crowd was kind of bronx cheering not only TDK, but the fact that players were able to hit and execute passes. And I think it was like there was 3 or 4 passes in a row that we hit targets, and with every one it was hey, and it was kind of we're at that level now, and it shows the frustration from the support base and all of us, and where we're at really. And you've mentioned it there. Said it's a disgrace of a fan base booing players at TDK. It makes the confidence go in the drain. It's a couple of games from 106 games. Then he's got his name on the locket, and we get a father-son. But TDK's gone. He is out the door. There is no qualms, no question about that. It'd be more of a surprise now if he actually stays. He would have signed by now, of course. Orazio, I think we can be critical of players. And again, I've been overly critical of Fantasia myself, but I do think that he actually does provide a fair bit at the moment when he's played in the right position. And I know he hasn't been the Fantasia of old that we saw when he was playing at Essendon, but, as he's gone through here, Doherty, last couple of games, I think he's on his last legs. He's quite aware of that. He's quite a humble, honest guy, and I imagine that he would be hanging them up come the end of the season. Chin Cotter, now, we can probably talk about the ins and outs. Let me know your thoughts with regards to the couple of changes we made. And, of course, Chin Cotter was one of those coming back into the team. And I thought he was coming in with the, prime purpose to tag, which he kind of did, if you want to call it that, on McCluggage. didn't really do much of a good job and had a pretty shit game overall. Just fumbly, just turnovers. Yeah, if you're coming in, I don't really like bringing players in if their only one wood is they're a tagger. If they can't offer anything else at senior level, you kind of don't serve a purpose in my eyes. You've got to, you've got to be like a Georgie Hewitt who runs both ways, keeps his opponent accountable, but also wins the footy and has an impact and provides something. So I do think that Chincotta, I don't know if he's going to be delisted, but I think out of the team, that just was not a good game from him. And Lucas, just with regards to this, mate, just slow down on the messages because I will keep up if I can. But when you're sending through 2 words per message, it's a bit hard for me to do it. So if you want to do it in a bulk message, that really helps me out because a lot of people do that normally. So just a bit of a heads up, if you could do that, would be awesome. Gov, I think now correct me if I'm wrong, but I did hear someone on Twitter mention that he's got, I think he has to play out potentially the next 6 games in order for him to have a contract trigger clause activated for him to get an extra season, I think. I don't know if this is correct, but let me know if not. But that'd be interesting. And I think, Gov, he has not been, and you can say this to a vast majority of Carlton players at the moment, hasn't been in the best form. And in my eyes, I would prefer to trade McGovern. But I don't know, like when he's been played forward, he's been actually okay. When he was back in defence, he's a bit like Kempy in a sense that he's kind of he fumbles too much. He makes too many mistakes that, punishes too harshly because they result in goals on turnover and everything else. And played up forward, he can really utilise his spring, his marking, everything else. So that I don't mind. Lucas, you said Boyd comes back in. He made it twice and laughed, and they did their handshake and laughed. He had all day to dispose of it. He looked clueless. So you're talking about what's his name, Carroll there? Yeah, I think he was I think that was what would you call it? Like a natural reaction from him. I think, there are people who are they hang their head when they've made a mistake. Kemp's probably one of those. Harry's another one. Other people tend to try and laugh it off. Not out of disrespect to the situation, but they just inherently do it subconsciously because they're, nervous and everything else. And you've got to remember, young guy, but I think, he might potentially lose his spot heading into next week off the back of these moments, which I don't mind because if you make mistakes and if you need to work on things at VFL level, that's totally fine. Going back to VFL level shouldn't always be seen as a punishment. It should be as an avenue to develop on parts of your game that you're kind of not up to scratch with at senior level. So kind of makes a bit more sense there. Velo, how are you, mate? Good to see you as usual, mate. Let us know your thoughts as well as I'm going through this game. Mate, it doesn't matter. If we're going to, drop the likes of Flynn Young off the back of 1 full game and 2 sub games, and yet give Frankie Evans 5 games and not prove himself in any single one of them, Frankie Evans has been chopped from 2 previous teams. He's a VFL player. He's a Kane Lucas. He's a Nick Graham. He's a player that can really, really, really look good at VFL level, but he can't convert it. He can't translate that to senior level. He doesn't have the attributes. He's one wood, again, is as a pressure forward. He doesn't do enough offensively, which if you're playing up forward, you need to be kicking goals. I'm sorry, you cannot just a defensive type of player in the forward line. So he is not coming back in. If the coaching staff bring him back in, which they already need to lose their jobs, but if they bring him back in again, it's like you're so out of depth in terms of development, in terms of seeing what players can provide. And again, he's had 5 opportunities at senior level, and he has done zilch in every single one of them. So if we want to, reward players from good form, we reward the likes of Lemmy, we reward the likes of Ben Camperoli and Lucas Camperoli. Now, the Campo twins, they actually provide a fair bit of speed as well. And they've been showing good form, not just 1 week of good form like Frankie Evans coming into the senior team, performing shit and then going back out again, only to, lo and behold, play well in the VFL. And we've also got Lemmy, who, as I said, it's hit 21 goals in 7 games. Those of his 7 most recent games, 21 goals. So again, we are lacking a key forward. We're having to play TDK up forward because of the fact that Harry is out injured. Why isn't Harry Lemmy in? This makes absolutely no sense. And totally agree there. As I've just said, Velo, good to see you're on the same page there. And I understand that we want to reward good form, but there's an opportunity there, and I think a difference between rewarding good form and giving players an opportunity multiple times that they have failed to grasp. Frankie Evans, I think he's about 23, 24 years of age, and he's, again, 5 opportunities, not sub, hasn't done anything with it, not playing a decent role, and not contributing to the team. When we're talking about guys that, are made for senior level, guys that, we're calling for guys that, the likes of Doherty to be dropped, McGovern to be dropped. They are performing no better than what Evans could provide. So why would we bring a Frankie Evans into the team? It just doesn't make sense. But everyone, I respect your views, but I'm just very, very passionate about that and setting standards. And I think the fact that we're rewarding guys for VFL form that is, yes, okay, but then not taking opportunities, I think is kind of a lack of standards and, development in terms of what other guys who could come into the team and provide a bit more. Now, Valley, you've said it's time to play the kids and swing the axe. 100%. 100%. And as I said, Ben Camporelli, Lemmy, and I made a tweet about the fact that heading into team selection, again, I was critical of the fact that Lemmy didn't come into the team, and the Campo brothers, or at least Ben, I think he's been performing quite well, deserves a crack. And people came back with the reply that there was a 5-day break between the VFL game and the Brisbane game. And they didn't want to, that the thinking was potentially that they didn't want to overwork the young players with that short, turnaround time. And I thought, well, fair enough. But again, we've brought back in Corey Durden, and the expectation was there that Corey Durden potentially might have been the sub because of that fact that there was only 5 days turnaround between games. But no, he wasn't. So it wasn't factored in at all. So again, it's just the coaching staff, team selection, not doing their due diligence in terms of rewarding players for good form. So it's pretty shit. Lucas, what I'm referring to there is some players have a clause written to their contract, whether it be, I think that the main common one is what I was referring to there, which is the games clause. So if they play, for example, 15 games in a 24 round or 23 round season, then automatically once they pass that point, it triggers, say, it might be a monetary bonus. It might be an extra year on the contract. Their managers, they sit down with the club and they negotiate this. And sometimes it's a bit of a, especially for those players that may be injury prone, the club likes to have sort of those little clauses written into the contract where it can be triggered once an injury prone player potentially gets over injury, and it just gives a confidence to the club that they can reward them with an extra year off the back of, getting back to good fitness and rewarding them for not getting injured, if that makes sense. Velo, and I suppose it was worse than putrid once again. Indeed it was. When are the coaches going to learn? And, it's on the players as much as the coaches. Like, I'll speak about it in a moment, but we'll pick back up things in terms of the pros and cons. But it was just terrible. Terrible skills. I mean, there was a passage of play there early in the quarter one where Cowan spread, and he was trying to do the right thing, kick through the corridor virtually, and hit up, I can't recall who it was, but it went over their head. Brisbane marked it, turnover, and virtually went straight back over his head for a goal. And it was just so frustrating. It was like a 20-meter kick, if that, and it was just terrible skills, absolutely terrible skills. It's like a contagion, really. Yes, apologies. I think my mic might have dropped out because I did see the connection here drop out fleetingly, so it might have been that, mate. But thank you. Valo, sound much better now. Not sure what you did, but it worked. Okay. I don't know what I did. But thank you. We need pace, and there are 2 perfect guys in the resis. So let me just double check my my audio to make sure it's coming through the right one. Yes, it is. Apologies. It might have been coming through my webcam, which is annoying because it does that at times. It gets a bit weird. We do, and as I just mentioned there, like the Campo twins, I have no idea why they haven't been playing. We've been lacking speed, and that has been a big part of our game that's been lacking. Even 2024, we know that, and it just doesn't make any sense as to why they're not being given an opportunity. And I think, I'm against bringing players into the team, especially young players, if they haven't shown enough form in the VFL. Like, you're not just going to bring players in because they've got certain attributes. They need to show good form in the VFL, and I'm a big advocate of that. But, again, really good form, and, they bring to the table what we're lacking in speed. So just super, super frustrating, and makes me, again, question the coaching staff, because the team selection, that's where we lose it a lot of the time. And it kind of puts a handicap, I think, on the side heading into game day, because it's like, well, you're virtually starting, multiple goals down because of the fact that you don't have the right players matching up in the opposition, and you're not bringing to the table, traits that we're looking for to counter the opposition. And this is the other big one, and I tweeted about it. You might have seen it, but it just pissed me off. And I'll bring up my Twitter just to give you an insight into what I'm referring to here. But just so frustrating, and made absolutely no sense at all. Let me just share the screen here. There we go. So you might be able to see that. So virtually what I said there is, so we give Flynn Young a full crack without the subverse, huzzah. But we do so at the expense of another promising youngster in Lord, who will be sub for the 7th time this season. That's nearly half of his games for 2025. And I talk about development and everything else, and, it's the sub. Like, someone has to be the sub, and I understand that. But to me, to have a player play half of their games virtually as the sub, it just really does, I reckon, stunt development of certain players. We've been culprits of it in the past. Jack Carroll, I think, even when he was showing good form early in 2024, he got subbed perennially. And I reckon that put a dent in his continuity in his game. Paddy Dow is another player as well that we've did it to too many times. And I'm just freaking hate it. It's just, as I said there, I just really can't deal with these coaches stifling development, because that's virtually what it does. And it is just so nonsensical. It's an absolute shitstorm, really. Lucas, can you create your best 22-on-0 hanger for Carlton round 1 against Richmond? Will be. I'm not going to do it yet, mate. I'll do all that sort of stuff in the postseason. We've got to keep our powder dry for that, because there will be a fair bit to talk about, of course, with regards to changes. But we will go and chat about 2026 and beyond in a bit more detail come the end of the season, because we will be, of course, licking our lips to see who sticks around and who doesn't. Velo, just before we get into our pros and cons again of the game, and we'll of course, go through the Willow rating side of things as well. Unfortunately, the Twins were quiet versus Brisbane today. Ben, 11 disposals. Yeah, it's a bit of a kick. It's a bit of a kick up the arse, isn't it? I mean, just to see that, and a couple of down games, and they probably won't get a crack off the back of that, which is unfortunate, because they've been stringing together some pretty decent games. Ben, especially, at the coalface. Lucas is kind of that winger, which again provides a fair bit of what we're lacking. But yeah, we'll go through maybe towards the end how we go in terms of what changes you would like to see made, and let us know now, what changes would you like to see made heading into next week. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's go through, of course, the game itself, and we will go through the surface level stats, of course. And you have said, Velo, let me 2 more goals. He's got to get a crack. He's got to get a crack, 100%. Well, let's go through the scores, of course. 9-12-66 to 15-13, 103. So that's 21 scoring shots to 28. And let's go, as we always do, go through the team stats. Wet the whistle. So disposals, 383 Brisbane, 344 Carlton. No real surprise there. They really just had their way with this. They did what they pleased. A lot of handballs. A lot of precision kicking as well, which we just couldn't match. But yeah, it was just a clinic, really. It was a clinic at one stage, and they let us back in at stages. I will say, Brisbane, especially towards the end of the game, flooded us a bit. But yeah, that's that. Inside 50s, 45, which again, well below our 54.3 season average, whereas Brisbane, 61, and they were well above their season average as well. Now, again, 61 inside 50s. And how many scoring shots do they have? What's that, 28? So almost 50%, I would have thought. Yep, 46% conversion on their inside 50s. And we had actually not too bad, I think, in comparison to, our inside 50s were down, but in terms of the scoring shots, so 21, we had 46 as well. So there you go. So very interesting with regards to that. But we all know there, just look at the number of behinds there. And they were early on in the game where we just weren't converting opportunities there, which were there for the taking. And we should have kicked and converted those to easy goals. Cripper, Fogarty, another one. So many players that just should have converted shots. Charlie probably goes without saying, but really disappointing there. Disposal efficiency, 69.8% to the Brisbane Lions, 76.8% there. Shows the difference in quality there. Efficiency inside 50, 52.5% above Brisbane's season average. And we were slightly above the season average with 48.9%. Stoppages, so 45 Carlton, 40 to Brisbane. And we went in as well with the two-headed combo up against Brisbane's two-headed combo as well with Fort and McInerney. And again, I think Pitnet played pretty well for his time in the ruck. Clearance-wise, we actually won the clearances as well. 8 was the differential there, 37 to 29. So we really restricted them below their season average, which is good to see. We almost matched ours. And we've kind of had a bit of trouble with clearance work in recent games. So that was good to see, quite refreshing. Contested possessions. Now, this is another surprise here. 144 Carlton to Brisbane's 113. So good to see that we did the work around the coalface and around the ground in contested situations. But this is the big one. This is the big worrying sign here, the uncontested possessions. Just allowing Brisbane the time, the space to get their hands on the footy, to move the ball with ease. That's a massive differential. That's 64 possessions differential, which it's got to be one of the biggest, I think, in recent games for the year. So that's virtually where it's won and lost. And I think that's kind of tells the tale with regards to the lack of work rate by the players, not keeping Brisbane accountable, allowing them the space, distance to do what they please, really. Turnover 65 to 63. The other big one as well. Look at this. Almost double the number of marks that we had. And that really does lend to the uncontested side of the game. They were just kicking, to players, uncontested, easy marks. 130, well beyond their season average of 104.9. And of course, we were well below our season average of 92.2 with 69. Just piss poor. Marks inside 50, we actually won the differential there, 18 to 14, which is interesting. Contested marks, 9 to 8. And that shows there 120 marks of the game were uncontested compared to 60 of ours. Shit house. 15-13, as we said, goals for Brisbane, and 9-12 goals behind to us. Tackles, 59 to 69. We were lacking there. And I think, again, if you're a side that is having so few uncontested possessions, you're allowing the opposition in turn to have so many of their uncontested possessions, you've got to have those tackle numbers up. You've got to have them up. And we'll speak about tackles in a moment as well, in terms of an area of the game which I think was pretty poor. Tackles inside 50, look at that, 20 by Brisbane, really emphasizing on, maintaining possession, keeping the ball within their inside 50. Just, and it amuses me because, Voss likes to play 5 small forwards. A lot of those players are supposed to be pressure forwards. And what do we have? 8 tackles inside 50. Poor. And 1% is 42 to 46. So let us go through Willow ratings in a moment. Let's check back in with the chat. We have, so Lemmy kicked 2 goals. 2 in the Twins, Lemmy, so you've said in the Twins, Lemmy, Wilson and White. Out, Orazio, Motlop, yes. Gov, yes. TDK, yes. And Doc, yes. Just my opinion, of course. I agree with all of them, mate. I agree 100% with all of them. I think Doc as well, he's just not at the level. Like, I know he's trying and everything else, but if we want to play him, if we are desperate to have his leadership in the team, which is lacking anyway, I think you could probably play him and use this as an opportunity to farewell Doc, for him to hang him up at the end of the season. But TDK 100% out. Motlop should have been out weeks ago. Orazio's out through injury. I think Williams might be out as well. I did hear that he had a little bit of a niggle. I don't know if that is true, but if it is, he's going to be forced out as well. And obviously Gov as well, out injured. So, yeah, it's interesting one. And I think we have to replace, with the Twins, I think at least one of those boys come in, if not both. But as you said there, if Doc plays, then put him in a forward pocket. And off half back, I don't mind it, but his skills, and he's been a player historically who has been so good with his skill set, but it just, as you've said there, Brisbane's, and he's one of the culprits, but Brisbane's skills made us look like an Oz kick side. They are so much better with ball in hand, and it shows the difference in quality, doesn't it? It certainly does. But I'll continue on actually with the pros and cons before I get into the Willow rating side of things, and we'll cap things off there. But I do like your ins and outs there, Velo. Very, very insightful, and along the lines of what I'm thinking as well. But let's continue on with, let's round things out with the good points. Now, for me, there were snippets of good play. Yes, there were. Handballing and spreading out of the middle at times was pretty good. Pinpoint kicking to Durden, that passage of play, who marked and goal. That bit of play was really good. And that reminded me so much of 2023, where we were almost unstoppable in the middle. Like the likes of Walshy, Cripper, not so much Chera, but there was other guys there as well that really played a role during that season. And I think Chera did play then. I think fleetingly, it might have been the season though when he was getting injured, but that was a part of our game. That was our bread and butter. That a lot of teams had to focus a lot of time and effort into, quelling our influence in the middle. And I saw that passage of play where we handballed, spread out of the middle, and pinpoint pass to Durden. And I was like, where is that? Where has that been? But, I don't know. I just wish we could do it so much more often. But Voss doesn't like us using the corridor, and likes to play the percentages down the line and everything else. And it's just, the usual shit. But let's get into the bad points. Now, there were many bad moments during the game, of course. But, from the outset, I think let's mention this one here. But what is with our defenders failing to touch the ball on the line when an opposition player kicks, a long kick from, on 50, outside 50, and there was a passage to play there where I think it was Ashcroft kicked the footy, and long kick. We had 5 defenders in the goal square, virtually no player on the goal line with a running, jump to try and touch the footy. I think it was Wiedering, it might have been, that kind of put in a fleeting, arm out and didn't touch it. It could have been touched. No one of those 5 defenders touched the ball. And again, it comes down to, mind, in the game. What are you doing? They've obviously checked out. Like, for that to happen, it really is a sight to see, and really disappointing. Kicking for goal, putrid, inefficient, lazy. TDK, he's checked out as well, just going through the motions. Kerno, goalless for 4 weeks consecutively for the first time since his potentially debut year. Voss played him way too far up the ground. But I reckon an element of that was due to the fact that we just wanted to get the footy in his hands to try and lift his confidence, which I don't mind. But, his confidence is at an all-time low. But I think regardless, without Harry and with Charlie being supposedly our key focal point in terms of our key forward, he needs to be kept closer to the 50-meter arc at minimum. If he's pushing up the ground to the point where he's in defense, what are we doing? What are we doing? Who are we kicking to? So I'm not a massive fan of that, but, we've got to sort of minimize his amount of push up the ground to potentially the wing and then back again. So I think that was kind of a bit of a weird one. I can understand it from the respect of getting the confidence of Charles up, but a bit of a strange one because he's been doing that quite often, Voss, by throwing Curnow back deep in defence. Now, speaking also to Brisbane's ability to break countless tackles, firstly, it highlights how strong they are, yes, but also how poor our technique is. So many missed tackles. Lions players just shimming their hips and, they're away. They are well drilled and their technique is incredible. But they just drive through the legs, through the hips, and we couldn't keep up with them. And a lot of those tackles as well where, if you're trying to tackle a bloke who's running at full speed with that momentum, there's virtually no way, unless you're built like a brick shithouse like Matty Rowell, there is no way you're going to stop that player, from, in their tracks and cause a stoppage or a turnover or, a free kick against. So that was one thing that stuck out to me and highlighted the difference in quality between both of the teams. And the next point that I wrote down here was we really need to, reestablish our cohesion and communication, referencing, of course, what I spoke about earlier with Matt Carroll. We really, really need to get around our youngsters, provide support, but also communicate. There are times there as well where players are going for the same, mark, or we have players going in the same contest with a fist. Ball is knocked over the back or goes straight over the top, and the opposition get their hands on the footy and kick a goal. That it comes down to, team cohesion, in terms of that line, defensive line, whether it be, inside forward 50, in defensive 50, in communication is key. If it's not there, like that's at VFL level, if not lower. So that needs to be brushed up on. But a lot of that is with regards to team chemistry, where we are lacking and falling short 100%. As you've said there, Velo, yes, that was bad. One thing I hate seeing is players fist pumping high fives or low fives before kicking goals. Very good point. It's such a small thing, but I think reserve all that until you kick the goal, because you kind of look a little bit like a dick. And it's quite funny as well. Like when you make mistakes, you see it across the board where players like high five each other, but I think they try and maintain confidence levels and don't be too down on yourself. So I can understand that. But yeah, to get the low fives and high fives for, for taking a mark and having a set shot and kicking out the full, you look like a bit of an idiot. So I do agree with that, Velo, 100%. Everyone at Doc's disposals went straight to the Bears / the Lions. He just plays a bomb ball. Yeah, there are a lot of players that do that. Weedering's another one as well, under pressure, bombs it out, just a hack kick out of defense. It's something that needs to be ironed out of our players by and large. Now, this is a big one here, and it comes down to what I'm referring to here. When I say team chemistry, I talk about culture. What you stand for, getting around your teammates, and I'm referring to here not sticking up for your teammates. Now, I reference here Haynes. He got ironed out by Zach Bailey and pushed over the boundary line, and there was no remonstration aside from, I think it might have been Chera lightly pushing Bailey in the back. And my immediate thought was like, if this was any other team, and my immediate thought was Collingwood, which hurts because they, to me, are the best team in the competition. But they would immediately have swarmed Bailey, and it would have been on. It would have been on. Like, stick up for your teammates, fire up. What do you stand for? And you don't have to be throwing punches or haymakers, whatever. Get in the face of Zach Bailey and let him know that it's not on, because if you don't, symbolically, what that says to the opponent is, oh, you can rough us up. You can push us around because we don't care. And, they went around to Haynes. I know that, like, they all, like Chera, everyone else went over to Haynes, checked on him. That was good. but you've also got to remonstrate. You've also got to remonstrate. I know it's an old school thing, and it might seem like a small thing, but we need to fire up. Need to fire up. It's shithouse. Velo, you said, I hope our guys watched tonight's game and saw what effort can bring to the side. Both Suns and Pies gave 100%. Yeah, exactly right. Spot on. Pies, they worked their way back into the game. They were very unlucky not to win it. And the Suns to, give up the lead and then come back and win, I think speaks real standards and levels to the Suns side. Yeah, it might have been Cowan, actually. It might have been Cowan, not Chera. Memory does evade me. So either way, I think it needs to be something that the players, they have to stand for. If you don't stand for the coach, if you don't give a shit about Voss, if you don't like him, fair enough. But you've got to get around each other as a team. That's just a non-negotiable. The last point here was the setup. Now, this remains a massive issue. And, we've tried to have that run and carry game, but once again, didn't work. Numerous occasions when we had 3 Carlton players within, such close vicinity of each other and not enough spread ahead of the ball to draw the opposition, and create that overlap. I don't know what the instructions are here. And I see it all too often where it's like Carlton players, like within, a radius of, 15, 20 meters, they're all within the space of each other. And it's like, what are you doing? I don't understand. Like, if you're not blocking space, you look on the fat side of the ground and there's so many players that are free because we've got a swarm of Carlton players here within a 20-meter radius doing nothing. So very, very strange setup, and it's just a lack of a structure, I think, overall. But, we've spoken about enough about that across the course of the season. Now, I will get into the summary in a little moment, but we might reserve that after I go through the Willow ratings, which you've mentioned there, Lucas. But first and foremost as well, thoughts on Chera's contact? He should get off as Chocky pushed him 100%. And how about speaking to the contact? And it's a big issue. And I think Adam Simpson and Horse Longmire spoke to it as well in terms of the positioning of umpires. Like, we have way too many umpires. Way too many. And the issue is that they stand in sections of the ground that are actually really frequently used by players. And as you would have saw in that, the contact with Cowan, when the ball was kicked, across the 45, the umpire was virtually flush where the footy was going. Just ridiculous. Like, how often do you see it where players use the 45-degree kick to either switch the play or just, take a bit of pressure off, a small kick, maintain possession, and the umpire was just there. Cost us a goal as well. Obviously didn't cost us the game, but aside from that, just piss poor positioning from the umpire. So they should really, and it's happened numerous times across the season, different games. It's just shit house. But as for Chera, he's got to get off. And he should not be. The fact that they want to rub out players for repeat offenders, running into umpires, like, pull your head in. It's just, there are other things in AFL that need to be fixed first and foremost before trying to rub players out for incidental contact on umpires. They're not going out and deliberately touching umpires like Toby Green did that time. It's just, it's so shit. And I call it revenue raising because it's an easy way for the AFL to fill their coffers with, a bit more extra money that they can use for end of season trips for, all the AFL administrators. But it's just, you're not having to set standards and stuff. It's ridiculous. Let's get into that now, Lucas. And Vilo, you said, Voss said that they need to update that type of action. Should be a ball up from next year. Yeah, that's what I thought as well, because, I mean, you think back to, I forget that umpire's name, but back many moons ago when he actually marked the football. It was kicked at him, and I guess his instant reaction was to put his hands up. He marked the footy, and it was, I think, a ball up from that point in time. Should be the exact same thing. I know it may be a disadvantage to the opposition, but it also, is a disadvantage to the other team as well, because, it's one of those things where it should be a ball up. It's a part of the game that should be avoided, but I think there are times there where it is unavoidable. The umpire gets in the way, it happens, and I think, at that point, teams should just be level pegging And if the opposition team gets a goal from it, it does. Like if Brisbane, for example, if that was a ball up, Brisbane ended up winning the hit out, sharking it, and kicking a goal, it still would have been shit because it creates or has transformed what would have been an easy mark from Cowan into a ball up, and then the opposition kicking the goal. But at least it nullifies things. It's more level pegging and whatnot. So I do 100% agree there with Vossi. Peter Carey was the ump. Yeah, he's the one. Made that that mark quite funny. Let's have a look at the Wheelo ratings, and then we'll get into our summary. And in the meantime, if anyone wants to jump on for a quick chat, feel free to do so. I'll back the link up in the chat now for anyone that is keen to do so. But in the meantime, let's have a look at Wheelo ratings. And where are we? First and foremost, let's have a look at the player ratings. So Josh Dunkley was rated the best player on the ground. Of course, won the inaugural Robert Walls medal, I think they call it. Was the best on ground and hands down was 100%. So Mark Pitnet was the best rated player here of Carlton's team that ran out on the night and ended up with 7 disposals, hit outs. He ended up having 35, which is a decent chunk. 6 pressure acts, 2 tackles, 4 score involvements, 2 goals, one of which was that massive torp. And you can probably see he doesn't really do too much around the ground, but I mean, he makes up for it in terms of what he can carve out when he is pushed forward. So I really love that. And up against an old school ruckman in Fort and McInerney, like for like, I think Pitnet does deserve the chockies there. Compared to if he came up against a new age ruckman, Tim English, Grundy, all those guys, even Gawn, he would have been put to shame. But I think he does have his place and role against opposition, robot ruckman, as we'll call him. Georgie Hewitt was our best rated midfielder, 33 disposals, 17 contested, 9 clearances, 5 marks, kicked a goal and 3 tackles and 13 pressure acts and 8 score involvements. Saki Williams was the next best, then Mitch McGovern and Nick Haynes. Harry O'Farrell did some nice things. Paddy Cripps got his hands on the footy a fair bit this time around. Charlie, which is interesting. 2 behinds. It was a interesting game from him. Orazio went off injured, of course. Moving down, Weeders, Durden, TDK, Matt Carroll, Doherty, Cowan, Jesse Motlop, the classic. Lockie Fogarty played a pretty shit game. Adam Chera, Flynn Young, Ollie Hollins, Cooper Lord, Chincotta, and Ashton Moyer. What are your thoughts about Moyer's game? Now, he got his hands on the footy as well. Looked like, he did some really nice things, I think. He did some nice things. Nice marks, everything else. But, yeah, he just, I don't know. I think maybe he was playing too high up the ground, maybe. It needs to be, I don't know. He's a bit of a strange one because he's got a really nice leap to him. Good leading, marking forward. It's just a strange one. I hope he gets another crack. I hope he does. Stick around. Just let us know what he can provide at senior level. We saw a couple of good games from him late last year. Give him a crack again, is what I'll say. Let's have a look at the other team stats as well. Now, as I always do, the big part of what I like to see is comparing the score sources. And again, no surprise here. If we look, I reckon a majority of games this season where we've been beaten and well beaten, a majority of goals would have came via turnover. Just because I think we're ranked the lowest in terms of efficiency with the footy out of anyone in the competition. That's even lower than West Coast. 75 points in total came via turnover. And then 4 goals via stoppage. So we got a bulk of our scores via stoppage, which is no surprise there. We kind of did not too bad in that area, various stages. It was just around the ground we absolutely killed, but turnover again. If we just brush up on our skills, positioning, everything else. I'm not saying it's going to be a 50-point turnaround, but geez, craziness. So that no real surprise there. Disappointing. Majorly disappointing. Velo, I thought Berry was huge also. Yes, he was. I'm not a Pito fan, but he was very good. Yeah. I think he does have opponents where I think can really, he can quash them and really stand out. And as I said, he's up against the old school ruckman. He can definitely do that. But I think just because he doesn't do too much around the ground, that's where he kind of gets found out. And that's not his sort of strong suit. But yeah, Pitnet played very, very, very well. You've said Moya was good considering he played on Andrews. Yeah, exactly. When you consider it in terms of the quality of opponent that he was on, he would be a dangerous as the third, fourth. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like playing him as a focal point, I don't think he's built for that. That's like playing Kemp as a focal point, key forward. I don't think longer term he's built for that role. And much like Moya, he can really, I think, pinch hit. He can be that bit part player. McGovern, you know, he's been playing up forward alongside Charlie and shown a little bit, which is good. But with if Gov's out, well, we need another player to come in. Maybe Lewis Young, but hey, Lemmy, he's there. He's waiting. Give him a crack. But yeah, just looking at Willow ratings here. Chin Cotter, I'm surprised he's actually not the lowest rating player, in all honesty. Cooper Lord, the sub, of course. Ollie Hollins, interesting there. What was his disposal efficiency? 81%. Yeah. His play rating was 1.8. I don't think he played that bad a game. I don't know what the player rating is indicating there. But obviously, I didn't think he was a standout, but a bit of a strange one. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Young is injured his ankle, didn't he? Because he looked as though that he might have done his ACL, but it was an ankle injury. Yeah, well, Lemmy's got to come in. I'm sorry, there's no excuse. No excuse. He's got to come in. Well, just to summarise things, ladies and gents, we might end things here because we've just ticked over an hour mark. As you've said there, Velo, very, very solid, Ollie. Disposal was good. Yeah, he looked polished and clean. And I know he can have those moments where he turns over the footy, but he actually looked pretty decent. Pretty decent. Now, I'm just going to close the chat with this. Just to summarize, like the issues, and we speak about the issues in recent weeks. It's Groundhog Day. We've gone through it. Disposal inside forward 50. Lack of leading patterns. The setup around the ground, terrible. And I think the overarching discussion here is that the issues run that deep. I think that it's beyond surface level with just being skill issues. Has to be. There's no motivation, no drive and confidence. And, just in confidence, like that can't drop any lower. Like, I don't think I've seen a team, apart from the one that faced Brisbane in the elimination final last year, which is virtually the same. I haven't seen the confidence be any lower. And it's no surprise that, the care factor has also eroded over the course of the season. Belief is non-existent. And from the way I see it, I think that they don't see a way out playing under Michael Voss and the wider coaching staff. I think they're over it. They're over the game plan that Voss is trying to implement. They're not. There's no buy-in off the back of that, and they're taking a stand, which is annoying to see because to us it looks as though they don't give a shit, which I think they do, but they're just frustrated. And, I've been quite vocal that Voss is not a senior coach of enough quality to coach at senior level. He hasn't got a plan B. He's very vanilla, very stubborn, refuses to, change things up in game, but also in terms of trying to implement a game style that he foresees, which probably doesn't bode well with the players and not playing players to their strengths. Uses it as an example here, classic one, Adam Sard not being played to his best in terms of his attacking prowess, breaking lines, running through the middle, attacking the corridor. But we've seen it across the board at numerous stages. And just speaking to the players, losing respect for Michael Voss and they don't want to play under him. Personally, I've worked, and we may have, all at some stage or another, worked under a manager that has been an absolute shit to work under. And personally, for me, I ended up only sticking around in this job, this specific job that I'm referring to, where my boss was an absolute ball breaker. It was a bit of an asshole and authoritarian, not democratic, and really made life pretty hard, which was pretty bad. And it was like a cultural thing as well. But I only stuck around in that job, thankfully, because that manager resigned. And at the time, I was actually in the process of looking for another job. And as it turned out, ended up sticking around in that specific position for quite a number of years. But I feel that the players are almost in that same boat. To stick it out for another, 6, 7 weeks under a boss that you do not enjoy working for isn't ideal. And unlike in any other industry virtually, they can't just up and leave, in this line of work as an athlete in AFL level. So it's really no surprise, I think, that all of these areas I touched on in terms of motivation, drive, belief, confidence, all take a hit. And I know that doesn't excuse it in terms of the performances from the players, in terms of them not putting in 100%. I think that's pretty shit. I think no matter what, you've got to have pride in yourself. And that's on the players themselves as well. And they've got to try and win games virtually. They've got to just try their best. And I know that they're probably not at the level of Brisbane. And I think we probably wouldn't have beat Brisbane anyway had we, been at full confidence and full fitness and had a full, formed team on the park. But as much as it hurts to see, again, I do understand it. But we have to question, like, once Voss leaves, will that be the only tonic? Will everything be magically fixed again? I think there is a degree of element that I think there can be. And the one thing that makes me think that and have that belief and optimistic view on things is we've got to remember that this is a side that made a prelim in 2023. And, I think subtract maybe 7 or 8 players due to largely, I think there's a couple that were delisted. Jack Martin, of course, Marchbank. We have Harry injured, Walsh injured, Cottrell injured. There's quite a number of players there that have been not in the team that were in the prelim due to injury. But again, you don't lose talent over the space of 2 seasons. You don't really regress as a team that quickly over the space of 2 seasons. But confidence, motivation, drive, and belief, you certainly can lose that over the course of 2 seasons. And I believe that's what's happened in this case here. I just hope that the players can dig in and put in performances that we can kind of be proud of, because at the moment they're not doing that. They're not even close to doing that. So, it runs deep, and I think it's not just on the coaches either. Like, I think it's unfair just to level blame at Voss and the other coaches. It's on the board level as well. The fact that they endorsed the appointment of Michael Voss. We've got Brad Lloyd there, not really keeping Voss and the other coaches to account. Where are the KPIs? I spoke about it before. The non, I guess, shake-up of the coaching staff, the coaching panel off the back of the 2024 season. They hid behind the fact that we had all these injuries that cropped up, mind you, late in the season. Our season derailed well before that. And they used that as a shield, and they kept their jobs off the back of that, which, again, it's the higher-ups. It's the Brad Lloyds. It's the, even, the board really is an area that the club higher up that are so immune to criticism. But, they've endorsed across the journey, like Bolton, Teague, not doing their due diligence and bringing in Michael Voss, who is the Stephen Bradbury of the coaches that were available at the time, because he's Stephen Bradbury into the role, because he was the only coach with experience that, the club said we so desperately needed off the back of, 2 rookie coaches in Teague and Bolton coming in without much, support around them in terms of a decent assistant coaching structure, and no director of coaching, which we needed at the time. Nope. A senior assistant coach, I think Neil Craig was alongside Bolton. Once he left, wasn't replaced. So there was a whole host of injuries, and it stems way back to there. And it's kind of what we see now is a byproduct of what's happened in seasons past. Let's just round things out with some quick comments in the chat. And you have said, Velo, I agree that there is some sort of cancer, to put it bluntly, at the club. And that's why we need the clean out. That's why we need Graham Wright to come in, do his thing, and clean things out. And unfortunately, the board will be immune to that only if they themselves put their hand up and say, you know what, we'll put ourselves up for re-election. But having said that, the way that Carlton Football Club is structured, board level, is pretty shit, because the way it works is there's virtually a committee which has to tick off anyone that wants to run for the board and anyone that is elected to the board. It's not as if you can just apply to be at board level and the members vote. No, it doesn't work like that. So it's a pretty shit setup at the Carlton Football Club, unlike other clubs. And it virtually makes them, as I said, immune, invincible to criticism, invincible to being held to account. Unless there is pressure that is put on. So yeah, it's a frustrating one. But also, Valley, you've said yes. Newman, Mackay, Smith, Walsh, Silvani, Sard, Kemp, Cottrell to the current team, and things could get a bit better, a lot better. Yeah, it would 100%. But again, we're not excusing things. I think we would probably still be in the predicament that we are if we had those players at a disposal, because, as you've mentioned there, it's a contagion. The way that the players are playing at the moment is, it's an issue. It is an issue, and it runs deep. And I think it's, again, the way the play is being played. It's the coaches and everything else, and that's what's led the players down the path that we're on. Now, this is refreshing here. So here we go. General Belandris, thank you for joining us, mate. Another opposition fan here from the Hawks. Welcome. I believe in Graham Wright. He isn't a messiah, and he will make mistakes, but he will make more rights than wrongs. But obviously, the structure of the club will be tested on how much he can do. And that, you've just hit the nail on the head. And thank you for joining us and not trolling us, because we do enjoy some opposition, refreshing analysis and viewpoints here. So thank you, General. You're an absolute legend. And good as well for you to comment, because obviously Graham Wright was at Hawthorn and did some very nice things in his time there, as we know, but did also some very, very nice things when he was at the Pies as well. And part of the reason why they've got Craig McRae, part of the reason why the culture at Collingwood is so, so good is because that was reset and the foundations were set from then on. And Graham Wright, yes, I think he isn't the Messiah, and we can't really see him as the Messiah because he has to answer to the board and to the president and everything else. He doesn't quite have the power to dissolve the board, but he, from what I've seen anyway, from the chat between, you might have seen Terry from Blue Abroad and the president has said virtually, he spoke about the endorsement that the board are going to give Graham Wright, and they have full faith in the fact that he comes in with that football acumen, that knowledge and intelligence, having had to play that role at both Hawthorn and Collingwood from a football sense. He comes in with a rare bit of skill set that no other CEO really has, apart from maybe a Tom Harley, all those guys, who's no longer obviously at Sydney. But he can comment on the football side of things, and I think you're not just a stereotypical CEO with a business background that helps bring in and maximize profits. He can come in and can really make a change. So I am 100% very, very confident of that, as you have mentioned there, General. But yeah, I'm just a little bit cautious. How much will he be allowed to do? How many changes can he make? Can he recommend? We'll wait and see. But I have no doubt he's an agent of change. He wants to, better the football club that he's at, and he's done that in his time at Hawthorn and Collingwood. So hopefully 3 times a charm as well for us. But we'll wait and see. But as you've mentioned there, as I just spoke to, Velo, only if the current board allow him to make decisions needed. Me being a Manchester United fan, says General, relates so much. Obviously, as a Hawks fan, I want him to fail because of how he left the club, but good luck to you guys. Yeah, and Collingwood's probably the same as well. Like, mind you, he wanted to finish up at Collingwood, and Collingwood wouldn't let him. And they said, go away, have a holiday, come back, and we'll have you back at the club. And he was never going to go back there. But I think he's the sort of guy that just likes a change in scenery and new challenges and stuff. So you can't hold that against him. But he did some really nice things at the Hawks and at the Pies as well. So hopefully he can do the same at Carlton. But that's why if we didn't have Graham Wright there and it was, we're uncertain of what changes might even be made at the end of the season, I might even think that maybe even Michael Voss would keep his role as senior coach. That might have even been a possibility, and I would be absolutely spinning chips because I think he's a big, big issue and part of the reason why the team is performing so badly. But as you've mentioned there, General, and hey, at least you aren't the Bombers, but yeah, I mean, both teams at the moment can't really hang their hat on anything at the moment, so both as bad as each other. But Steve, thanks for joining us, mate. You've said, let's see if he is given the chance to make the changes required. Others in the past have tried and have been impeded. Yeah, I think so. It's been a big thing, but I think, as I said, from what the press has said, from the brief public, chats that he's had, that the board have virtually said that they're going to give their endorsement for Graham Wright to do what he needs to do and leverage off his, football intelligence, acumen, experience, everything else. So let's see. And Valley, you've probably put the nice footnote here on things before we wrap things up. Fingers crossed for the Tassie boy that he can fix our problems 100%. Well, that's it, ladies and gents. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Really do appreciate the feedback, the discussion points, everything else. And whilst I've got you, if you have yet to subscribe, to like the video, feel free to do so. We really do appreciate all of your support that you can give us. We're still, I think the subscriber rate's around about 720 or thereabouts. Might be a little bit more. I haven't checked it, but it has grown a fair bit over the course of the season, the early part of the season, and it was in the postseason, of course, which is probably the most fun when we're talking about the trades and the draft and everything else. But if you have yet to subscribe, I really would appreciate all the support that you can give me. So give me a like, give me a sub, and hit the notification bell as well. If you are keen to get involved in these live streams, which you probably will try and ramp up towards the back end of the season, and do these open mic sessions, similar to a fan cam, much like Terry's Blue Abroad, but of course we can't step on his toes because he does some absolutely incredible stuff, and I'm a massive fan of his stuff. But a bit of an open mic, which I like to do with the more so just the review side of things as well, and have that open feedback and banter between fellow Bluebaggers out there. So fingers crossed, we'll see how things go for the rest of the season, but we will try and note out a few more live streams. But thank you in turn, Velo. You are a big supporter of ours here on this channel, so always appreciate your chat and everything else as well, discussion points. So thank you as always for tuning in. General Belandris, sorry if I butchered your username there, mate, but thank you for joining in as well as an opposition fan. Really do appreciate some common discussion between opposition fans, which is quite refreshing considering a lot of it is banter and throwing shit back and forth at each other. But really do appreciate that. Steve, thank you. Who else have we got here? Lucas, of course, and Josh as well to start things. I may have missed one or two others, but apologies if I have. Well, that's it, ladies and gents. Thank you as always for tuning in, and really do appreciate your company. And we will be back, of course, to preview the next game. I have no idea who we're playing at this point because why do I care? I just want to see the end of the season. We want to see of course, Oh wait, let me just test this out, see if this works. There we go. Like and subscribe. There we go. Nice little thing there. But yeah, we want to see the end of the season. We want to see change that we were speaking about. And check out the thumbnail as well for this video if you haven't seen it. You might see a little bit of an Easter egg there of TDK taking a mark with the ball being replaced with a bag of cash, which is kind of what we're all thinking will happen. But that's it, ladies and gents. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next one. Go Baggers.
Have you ever heard